Looking at example 3, suppose a planet is discovered in 2024 and it's named Newtonia. If the alien population, P of T, is recorded in millions of aliens, so that's important, millions, so of aliens, and T represents the number of years since the planet's discovery, explain the meaning of these statements below. So before we even start, let's say what P equals the millions of aliens, and T equals the number of years since 2024. All right, now that we've got that established, let's talk about this. This is saying P prime of 3 equals 0.5. Well, P prime is the derivative, so that's the rate of change of population. So now so this is saying we got 3 years, the derivative at 3 years is equal to 0.05. So you always start, if you're doing with time, I always start with, of course you start with what your x is, right? After 3 years, so, and then you could say in 2027, okay, and now you're going to say what you have, the population on Newtonia, okay, is what? Is what? Increasing or decreasing? So you're looking at this. You usually say one or the other is increasing at the rate of 0.5 million. And we usually don't do that. If it goes below 1, you would say, what is that? So I'm going to say 500,000 aliens per year. All right, so that's what that means. What does this mean? Okay, we have an inverse function. That just means what came first, the chicken or the egg. This time you're saying that after that this is the year and this is the rate. So you can say it the same way, or you can say it with the population first. So say what this is. So the population of aliens on Newtonia will be 7.5 million aliens per year five years after. This is not a derivative, so you're just saying how many will be there. 5 years after 2024, so in 2029. So notice this was a derivative. This was just the inverse function. And now we have the derivative of the inverse function. So now we have to talk about rate. So see, this is a rate because it has a derivative. This is not a rate. This tells what is the population. And this is a rate right there. So we have to say it in terms of rate. So when the population on Newtonia reaches 7.5 million, it will take, so now we have to say what it's going to take, because it will take 3/4 of the year, so 3/4 of a year to for the, not two, but for the population to increase by 1 million. Okay, so just how long will it take to have 1 million? All right, so let's move on to the next question. All right, so this is actually going to ask us to explain the meaning again. So we have launch a water balloon from a giant slingshot. And S of t is the distance in feet that the water balloon traveled from its initial starting point as a function of time t in seconds. So we have feet and seconds. So we want to know, what does this derivative notation mean? So this is Leibniz. So this is saying that the rate of change of distance to time at time equals 2 is 38 feet per second. Well, what is the rate of change of distance? Hello, it's the velocity. So like that ds dt is equal. So that's like s prime of t, which we know is vt, right, in Lagrange. So this is velocity. So let's say that in words. Remember how we always start? We start with this. When t equals 2 seconds, or after 2 seconds. So I'm going to actually say that because I usually say after, right? Because it's time goes forward. So after 2 seconds, the velocity, well, let's say what's changing. The balloon is traveling, I'm using this, traveling at a velocity of 38 feet per second, because they give us that. All right, so that was just, look, if it's the rate of change of distance over time, that's going to be the velocity. You know that one. So you can't just say the rate of change of distance over time. You have to say, okay, I know that's velocity. All right, let's look at number 5. All right, the total cost C in dollars of an airplane flight is a function of the number of passengers, can be calculated by derivative airlines using C equals F of N. What does it mean to say F prime of 182 equals 58? So first of all, C, okay, is equal to the cost. And so they tell you C is F of N. So F of N is equal to the cost, and then N per N passengers. Okay, the cost, not per, I guess, of N passengers. Because it's a cost of an airplane flight. They mean per person. Like, so I'll just say cost per person for the flight. Okay. Per person N for the flight. Okay. FLIGHT. Okay. So what does it mean to say F prime of 182? So see, you can see the N is 182. So N was the number of passengers. So remember we always say when, and when the number of passengers reaches 182, the cost of the flight is, and now it's 58, right? So is increasing by $58 per person. All right, let's look at I'll stop there because this one will take a little while.